Hello and welcome to another video. More Dungeon a day this time around, this time for July. I've done quite a few of these maps now, and if you really want to support the channel you can get any of them from April, May, June at oddartworks.com. You can get them digitally or as a limited edition signed print, and I will ship them anywhere around the world. Okay, so I have got my July prompt list, sci-fi theme this time, a bit different for me. Here's my map template thing, my calendar, and yeah, ready to go. Okay, first roll, crashed satellite. Okay, I know at this point I hadn't quite decided what I was going to do, so I thought this was a good one. It could be a satellite crashed on a moon or a colony. I didn't really have to think too much about what it had crashed into, so this was kind of me procrastinating a little bit. I think as I started drawing it, I liked the idea that it had crashed into something kind of man-made or metallic, which sort of led me to think, I think I'm going to do this as like a space station. So I think, yeah, this was as I was drawing this, I decided, right, space station. So I knew what I was doing there. And I know flames don't happen in space, but I kind of like that maybe this is some kind of fuel that can burn in the vacuum of space. It doesn't need oxygen or anything like that. I'm taking some big liberties with physics and science in this video. Yeah, so sci-fi is totally different to me. I haven't drawn anything sci-fi for years and years and years. Most of my work is fantasy or surrealism. So this was quite an interesting little challenge for me, this. But yeah, day one went okay. Next one, engineering. So I kind of like because I decided a space station, I kind of thought, well, let's have these little kind of fix-it drone, engineering drone type things that are buzzing out to kind of survey the damage of the satellite. And I always find if you want something to look industrial, if you put these kind of stripes around them, and when I colour it, you'll see I colour them yellow. It makes everything seem quite construction-y. And I think in Aliens, when Ripley's got the power loader, that's very much got stripes and it's yellow and it feels quite industrial. That's sort of how I communicate that. So yeah, I've borrowed quite heavily from a lot of kind of 80s movies that I like throughout this, that I definitely watched when I was way too young to watch them, but I love them anyway. Alright, day 3, burned droid. Okay, so deciding this is a space station, I wanted to try and keep this outside for as long as possible. I drew a very generic shaped robot with kind of a domed head and legs, and I like the idea that maybe it was fixing this antenna and suddenly hit the wrong wire and he's just been fried, he's burned up. And I think this gives a little bit of visual interest to the very industrial sort of scene. Everything's kind of quite man-made feeling, so having something quite organic or a big effect like an electrical kind of surge makes for an interesting image. Alright, next one, retracting arm. Okay, so again, this was a good opportunity to draw like a big industrial crane type structure. I always like that a lot of sci-fi films have these great big kind of clamps and things like that, and they always remind me of those things you get in arcades. It's sort of, you move the claw down and it picks the toy up, and I always find it quite amusing, so it was quite nice to put that in there. And again, with my industrial stripes on there to kind of sell the fact that this is practical, it's not a weapon or anything like that really. And yeah, still not really much of an idea of what it's actually attached to, but sort of making paneling and stuff on the side of that, whatever the robots stood on, and little sensor arrays and things like that. And yeah, I think it went okay. Alright, next one, crew quarters. So I knew I had to go indoors for this one. So yeah, very much kind of thinking about how to do this, and I think I kind of decided that I wanted kind of like sleep pods, like hypersleep sleep pod type things, and they'd all be connected up, and they always have a little table where they have breakfast and stuff when they get up, and so I wanted to make sure I had all that set up with a little computer screen and everything, somebody inside one of them, and yeah, a little locker and view screen and things like that. And the other one, I think I decided I wanted to be quite suspicious, like it's been smashed open and something has escaped, though I don't quite know what. And I have a horrible feeling that I'd never really addressed it either. So yeah, this was good fun actually, thinking about how people live on a space station. So next one, drones. Okay, so very robot themed so far, and this became a theme for most of the map actually. So I decided I wanted to continue the living quarters, and I made this kind of computer eye thing, similar to the thing from Portal, I suppose. And then a couple of drones flying by outside that maybe monitor the station, and whatever purpose this station has, these drones are a part of. Make sure I get some lockers in there, and so that gave me a definitive kind of end to where the station goes up to, which was nice. I've found doing these maps, it's great to, if I can kind of contain something within a frame, then it makes it a bit more visually appealing, I think. So I was very conscious that was something I wanted to do with this. Alright, so that's the first row done. I'll be honest, I wasn't quite sure where this was going at this point, and I was a little worried, but there we go. Command, the next one. So I kind of thought this would be like the command station, like a bridge or something. And I put a great big round window in there, because I love round windows on spaceships and things, because they're so ridiculously impractical. You think about how you've got to install that, if you imagine everything's built out of panels, and then you've got to cut a circle in one of them, and then you've got to put glass and all sorts in it. It's a bit of a nightmare, really. So I find them quite amusing. I think on the Death Star, when you've got that round kind of window behind the Emperor, that to me is always kind of like the most impractical window for something like that. But anyway, so got a command station, got a figure kind of watching over everything, no idea what's happening. He's got his little computer sentient drone portal type thing in the corner. And the next one, burnout. Okay, so something has happened, and this actually worked out really nicely because I could finish the satellite off. So the satellite has crashed into this part of the station. Why nobody's getting sucked out yet, I don't know. So it was very much like, maybe this has created a bit of a seal as it's busted through. Maybe there's a force field or some sci-fi nonsense like that. Just making this kind of look like it's just happened. So maybe the guy on the command console hasn't quite realised yet, or maybe there's something a bit more sinister about him. Alright, 36, empty dock. So again, this was a good opportunity, an area of kind of quietness. So it was an opportunity for me to explore how I was going to do doors. Doors are quite important. I really love weird sci-fi shaped doors. I think my favourite all-time doors in a sci-fi thing are the ones on Babylon 5, because they weirdly like turn upwards at an angle. They're really cool. You should look at... Anyway, that's a sci-fi show everyone should watch, because I think it's very underrated and it's brilliant. What do we get next? Synthetic human. Okay, so continuing the droid kind of theme. So I sort of wanted this to continue the dock round. So I had like a shuttle bay, if you like. And I like the idea of this funny kind of shaped door, and just the synthetic human. Maybe he's monitoring something and he's sort of plugged into that antenna. Maybe he's fried the droid. Who knows? There's something definitely sinister going on with this station. Getting that all in there, getting the weird teeth on the doors is very important. The kind of warning stripes, and the other door, wherever that's going. And starting to feel a bit more space station-y now, so I was feeling a bit better about things. Pulsing cable nest. Okay, I think this is where I really decided, okay, the problem with this station is it's become self-aware, so the machines are taking over, which is something I live in mortal fear of every day. And so I like the idea that maybe this computer has kind of tried to uproot itself and possess more things. So I wanted it to be kind of coming out of a ceiling panel, but it's still got that kind of red eye that all sinister computers have. When I think of the Terminator or HAL and things like that, I really wanted that to come across. So that was quite important for me to get that there, and just filling in a little detail in space there, like the sensors. If it's by a shuttle bay, they probably would need sensors, and then filling in the details with the wires to make sure they read as wires, and like they're grasping out, trying to possess more things. I like the idea that in the future Wi-Fi doesn't exist, everything has to be wired in, that kind of retro future thing. And then we got sparking cable for the next one. So I kind of wanted to make out that to get to the crew quarters you'd have to go up a ladder and things like that. And for the sparking cable I wanted to be like this kind of probe like computer cable thing with a claw, and he's got like a cutting kind of repair welding torch. That's what's creating the spark, and he's going after the poor humans who live in their crew quarters up there, and that's what's happening. Alright, a praying droid. Okay, this was an interesting one. I didn't quite know how to do this. I decided to do it outside because I thought, if you're going to pray to anything, and I love the idea in sci-fi that machines, when they become self-aware, they kind of have like a religion. If I think of like Alien Resurrection, there's kind of religious connotations with the master computer in there that I think Winona Ryder's character, I think they call him Father or something like that. And that's a really underrated film as well. I think that was the first kind of horror film I saw in the cinema, that one. But I really like it anyway. That's one of my favourite films, Alien Resurrection. I know not a lot of people like it, but I do. But yeah, so it was just this idea of this kind of robot kind of praying to the Almighty, like the great beyond, the space, whatever they're going to pray to. Somehow they found religion, which I find quite funny. But yeah, we got another road done, so starting to feel a bit more coherent now. So I'm feeling a bit better about it at this point. So yeah, that's good. Next one, Smuggling Compartment. Okay, I was really pleased this ended up on the outside, or potentially could have been the outside, so I made it the outside. And I like the idea that maybe these people are aware of the robot uprising, and they're trying to remove anything of value or danger from the station by sneaking out this kind of exhaust port in spacesuits. So I think that's quite a nice little narrative thing. I probably could have done a bit more work on the spacesuits. They're a bit generic, but I think they read okay. So that was my main concern, kind of dealt with that. And then yeah, just filling in all the gubbins and gribblies on the outside of the station. Like, I like the idea that wires kind of hang out because it's space. You need panels somewhere, but if there's nothing living there, it can just be a mess of wires. Okay, next one, wired body. Okay, so I knew I wanted to kind of show like a window, I suppose, sort of showing inside that kind of dock, and the wired body, I kind of thought, well, let's have like one of these sort of portal like computer things, and they've spotted the smugglers and they're kind of looking out and deciding what to do about it. So they've got a weapon, they've got a weird little claw clamp thing, and that's the main kind of narrative of this part. So they've been spotted, and yeah, this thing is kind of coming out, and it can probably, I like to imagine it can kind of extend itself quite a long way. Okay, Arc of Sparks. So this was a good generic one, so I could have taken this in a lot of different directions. So I wanted to fill in where this thing was coming from. So he's kind of coming out of a pipe, and then I wanted like a little robot on the outside kind of cutting his way in. So that's where the Arc of Sparks kind of comes from, and I know that'll be a great effect to do when I put the colour onto it. And yeah, quite why he's trying to get in, I don't know, but like that's it. He's just decided, nope, this place doesn't need oxygen. Okay, Megabot. So this was very exciting. So my favourite giant robot thing of all time is kind of a weird one. I really like the Dreadnought in the original Space Crusade board game. I think it's kind of like Ed 209, but terrifying. And so I kind of started off making it like that, and then I thought, no, I want to keep it in the style of like the domed robots I've been creating. So it's kind of like a big fat version of that, but it looks like it's being repaired in wherever this place is, but the kind of wired computer has kind of possessed him, and he's outstretched his hand and he's going to be doing something there. I didn't know what at this point, but yeah, any excuse to draw like a monster or a giant robot is always appreciated. And we realise all this is taking place in a science lab, so it was very important that I get something sciencey in there. I decided the Megabot is going to be blasting this poor scientist, so all we can see left is his skeleton. Like he's been atomized, like a 1950s B movie type thing. I love things like that. So yeah, we've got everything to say we're a science lab now. And then there's a problem, hull breach. So I kind of thought if there was a big hole, everything would be getting kind of sucked out. So I kind of thought, well, let's have a hull breach that's just happening, just there and then. So there's like a blast of something. I don't know where the blast is coming from. And it's just kind of just happened, and it's just hit the side of that thing. So no oxygen has been sucked out just yet, but it's about to be. I think good artwork, it's always just before or just after something's happened. And then I rolled faceplate, which was not particularly helpful. And it took a little while to think about it. And I thought, well, I'll do another big robot, but I thought initially I'd have it would have a faceplate. I was trying to think of ways, and I thought, oh no, well, I'll just do like somebody's drawn a smiley face on him. It's like a faceplate, isn't it? And it's sort of in keeping with my kind of retro future 80s thing. So yeah, I was kind of quite pleased with that in the end, and it sort of solves that little narrative problem I'd created for myself. And I'm filling in the fact now that I like the idea that this station is situated as part of like an asteroid. So another row, starting to feel really nice now. Really enjoying this one. I was very nervous about doing something sci-fi, but this was really nice to do. So I might do another sci-fi one in the future. Let me know in the comments if you want to see another one. And then spacesuit. So I wanted to, maybe one of the smugglers has come a cropper. So he's sort of injured himself in some way. He's got a hole in him with loads of blood coming out, and he's dropped the thing that is quite important, whatever it is, the MacGuffin, and he's just sort of drifting a little bit. So we'll have to wait and see what has caused this awful catastrophe for this poor smuggler. But yeah, I think smuggling's a dangerous pastime, so obviously there's a little bit of risk involved. And actually working in space, terrifying as well. One of the things, I'm terrified of flying, and one of the things I always notice when I get on a plane is how thin the hull is. So yeah. Alright, next one, bot with a skull. So this is where I started to really think about, well, if these robots have become self-aware, perhaps this robot is considering mortality, life and death. Is he alive? Are humans really alive? And he's obviously killed somebody and found a skull, and now he's contemplating the nature of life, death, the universe, and everything. And yeah, just on the outside of the hull there, stood on one of the rocks. Okay, next one, blinking red light. The ominous blinking red light. What could it be? Perhaps a nearby, whatever ship the smugglers are on, have realised this is a huge danger, so they've launched a missile into it, but it's not exploded, and it's just kind of crash landed into the asteroid with the light blinking, so it's something bad's going to happen soon. And I don't think the robots or the computer have realised that this unexploded ordnance is kind of there waiting to cause them lots and lots of problems. So yeah, something that could go wrong. And then we got vending machines. So this was where I really thought, okay, what's caused all these robots to become self-aware? And I love the idea it's this kind of vending machine that's done it. This vending machine has achieved sentience and has kind of forced himself into all the systems and is trying to ascend to like a machine god of some sort. And I just love the fact that it could be something as mundane as a vending machine. And I think whenever I see a vending machine, there's something quite sinister about them. They're quite aggressive when whatever you've got from it drops down, and that flap is always quite stiff and feels like you're putting your hand in something's mouth. They are quite aggressive vending machines, so yeah. And then we've got escaped mutant. So handily, this is in the science lab. So this mutant is seeing his opportunity with all the chaos to do a runner. I like the idea that maybe he's got a massive arm and a massive leg, and the rest of him's quite normal, and his head's a bit deformed. Similar to the goblin mutant I did in the last monthly map, but yeah, good fun. Okay, and then life support. So was sort of thinking about different ways to do this, and I like the idea that the entire station's life support is essentially this box on the outside that kind of filters space dust and minerals and takes the oxygen out of them and kind of circulates that into the air supply and kind of purposes the carbon dioxide that we breathe out into something we can breathe. So I thought, yeah, it's just a overcomplicated box with a pipe in it. And then we've got liquid metal, and I thought, okay, I have to pay homage to one of the best sci-fi films ever, Terminator 2, and do a liquid metal robot that's kind of sabotaging the life support by kind of making himself like liquid and sneaking in that way and causing all sorts of chaos. And I like the idea that he could only form like knives and things like that with his liquid metal, can't form anything complex. So yeah, another row done. Yeah, this is really happy with this at this point. It's like I've created kind of an interesting, very chaotic scene with a good narrative to it. So yeah. Okay, and then we've got automated weapon. So this worked out really well. So I decided the automated weapon would be what's causing the guy in the spacesuit to have a very bad day. So yeah, just this thing sticking out of the asteroid, just shooting him really. This really reminded me of when I was a kid, and we used to just draw, me and my friends used to just draw these mad space battles, and it was so much fun, and I don't know why I stopped doing it, because I really enjoyed this. I didn't think I would, but I did. It was really good fun. And like with all these kind of calendar maps, trying to think of how they all tie together is what's fun about it. So this next one, a burned out corridor. Again, I'm sort of on the outside, I'm in the asteroid, so I thought, well, let's have like a docking tube, but we'll have like a robot in there, and he's firing like a flamethrower, and he's blasting it all out to eradicate any kind of organic life. So yeah, this is the fun part really, is tying it all together and seeing if I've narratively or visually drawn myself into a hole a little bit. And weirdly, I didn't. It all kind of worked out, which is good. And then we've got escape pod, so maybe we've got some humans that are desperately trying to get off this station. So I kind of thought this would be where the escape pods would be located. So this one hasn't launched. I think I planned to do a lot more, but I think I ended up doing only one more. But yeah, so very simple kind of pod, clues in the name, so I kept it really simple. Little sensors underneath to monitor it. And then the last one, ripped apart. So I kind of thought, okay, let's have one of the pods has launched, but one of the robots has kind of caught it and managed to cut a little bit off it, so cut one of those boosters off. So who knows whether whoever's in there will manage to escape or not. I like a little bit of narrative tension, a cliffhanger if you like. Will they make it? Will they explode? Will they get to where they want to go? Who knows? So yeah, kind of a nice way to end this kind of this particular monthly dungeon. In terms of what I think, Mothership would be the game I'd be thinking to play this with. But you could do Alien, you could do all sorts, there's loads you could do with it. And then it's just a case of filling in all the gaps, making sure I've got it so it kind of works. So we're on an asteroid, and then get the big fat black smelly pen out, which does smell amazing, as always, and then fill in all those kind of gaps with the blackness of space. You'll see that when I colour this, and I kind of decided very early on that I will add the stars digitally. I could do it with a toothbrush, but I just thought the cleanup would be ridiculous. So yeah, that's it. Sign it, make sure it's all signed. So there we go. I didn't record ripping the tape off this time, but you know how that works, so I don't feel like I needed to. But there we go, that's the month of July all sorted. So the next step is to scan it into the computer, so we get a nice clean scan. I did a lot of rubbed out all my pencil marks so we can kind of see what needed fixing. I didn't have to fix much. It was mostly just tidying up shadows. I think I changed the angle on one of the room walls. That was about it. And here you go, I've added stars to the background. You can see all I've really done is I've intensified those shadows. I haven't added anything per se. It's just making it read a little clearer. So as a drawing, I was really pleased with this. Much to my amazement, it turned out really well. Then my 3 tones of grey, they're doing the heavy lifting. They're really bringing it to life. I really wanted to differentiate the asteroid from the station. I had a lot of effects, so anything that's an effect is white. But yeah, really happy with it. And then my base colours, so I knew things were going to change, but you can kind of see I've got lots of oranges in there. I've got kind of a cold blue and a cold kind of purple for the asteroid. But I knew those oranges and some of those reds would really kind of warm it up when I put the effects on. And then I put the effects on. So we've got, I did like a red alert for the bridge or the command, and then we've got our reds, we've got our big green with that kind of atomizing ray, all the flames and everything, and our blue lightning at the top. So yeah, really happy with how this worked. And then the very last thing to do is to give it a title, so I called it The Raging Robots of Asteroid 97B. And that's it, that's this monthly map. If you want to buy this map, it's on sale on oddartworks.com now. Alright folks, thanks very much, and I'll see you next time. Have a good one. Bye now.